Cubs are hot. Cubs are hot. Whoa.
Oh man, what a holiday weekend. And there were fireworks all weekend on Friday. Even yesterday, I'll give the Cardinals credit. That was a good comeback. But tonight was just a no sweat. This is a party. This is vibes. This is hanging out, celebrating the weekend we just watched of Chicago Cubs baseball. That was fun.
That was fun. Welcome into the Rant, episode 160. We're going to be talking about the Cubs beating up on the Cardinals. There's a lot of All-Star game drama, and the trade deadline is close, less than a month away. The draft is also next week, so that's super fun as well. We got a lot to discuss. Blake, how have you been? It's been June 23rd was the last time we did this, so it was almost 2 weeks ago. We had to take a week break from the Cubby climb last week, so we should be back on next week, but a little bit of a hiatus there. I know we've all been very busy, but since we've last talked, you went to Wrigley, or you went to Busch rather. You went to Busch and saw the Cubs-Cardinals series, and then the Cardinals and Cubs play each other again, which is just still so crazy to me that they waited until June and then they play each other like 7 times in 2 weeks. But fun series. How have you been?
Good, man. I think the last time since we talked, I was at Busch or at Wrigley. That was for the Pirates Cubs series. I guess we've talked maybe since I went on CHGO for that one Sunday. So maybe it's since then. But yeah, Busch Stadium a couple weeks ago, went to 3 of the 4 games. The only game I missed was Demon Boyd's start, which he pitched well then. Got to see Shota's return. A fun back and forth series. And then yeah, I mean it's been a blast watching baseball, enjoying the team, enjoying the ride as usual. If you're not built for 162, then the sport isn't for you, because we've seen a lot of highs. We saw some lows with this team, but they finished June 13-13, or did it end up being 14-13?
That's a great question. I don't know. Put me on the spot there. I'm not sure. Either way, I mean, the fact that they were around 500, and most good teams were really bad, or not really bad, but weren't great in June. So as much as it's like, yeah, it's not great they didn't do well, it's not the end of the world. They didn't really lose too much ground, and then taking this series against the St. Louis Cardinals is huge for the momentum to start off July in a good spot after sweeping the Guardians. But no, June wasn't great. I mean, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. All teams have bad stretches, but man, it's a good start to July. Do you have the record in June? Do you have their official record?
13-13, a clean 500 for the no good, very bad, slumping, worst team in baseball, June swoon, Chicago Cubs.
Dude, June swoon is one of my favorite, and I was trying to think of a July one. I think I'm on July goodbye, and then you can just say July goodbye to our playoff hopes. I'm trying to find a negative way to spin every single month, name of every month. I'm still working on August. We gotta think of that one. Yeah, as Jack says in the chat, June swoon. The June swoon was upon us. But in a way, if you think about it, for them being 500, that's not that bad. With how good they had been, 500 is okay. Even if all the other teams had continued to do good, that is okay. But they didn't. Most teams were really bad in June. So, okay, they didn't lose any ground, and then they've started off July on an absolute heater, going 5-1 to open the month.
Yeah, I mean, if you've been watching this team now, I guess really in the last week, I mean, since they got back to Wrigley Field playing the Guardians, because after they left Houston, it was like, all right, the Cubs lost another series to, I mean, really, I was talking to an Astros fan last night at the bar, and I said, who's your World Series prediction? And he didn't give enough credit to his own team. And I was like, dude, if I had to pick right now out of the AL, the Astros are 20 games over 500. They have one of the best bullpens in baseball. Like, the Cubs lost a series to a very, very, see, Jack says it in the chat, Dodgers just got swept by the Astros. A very good team. The Cubs lose a tight series to them. And then they come home and sweep the Guardians, a team that I think that's a good sweep. I mean, the Guardians are losers of now 10 straight.
Yes,
I think they just lost 10 straight today. So, I mean, they're slumping. The Cubs took care of them. And then say what you want, the Cardinals are a team above 500. And so the Cubs can't beat a team over 500 in the series. That narrative's gone. So In the wise words of Steph Curry, what they gonna say now? What they gonna say now? You can say Eric Fetty, you can say Miles Michaelis, you can say whoever. I don't care who's on the bump. That team's above 500. They took 2 out of 3 from them. They handled their business, and 2 of the games weren't even close. And then the game they blew yesterday, hey, it happens. It happens. Brad Keller goes out there. Your man Brad Keller gets mollywopped. Unfortunately,
Destroyed. Yeah,
I'm gonna butcher the name. Yohel Pozo. Is that how you say his first name?
I think
You,
so.
you
I just
know
call him Pozo the Bozo.
Pozo the Bozo. Hey, we gave him his deep 3-run homer. Congrats on the homer. Good moment for you. But the Cubs took care of business tonight, as we thought they should. A lot of Cardinal fans were in my mentions, and I'm sure the Cubs insider mentions as well, saying we should not even win this game because Eric Fetty and Miles Michaelis are still employed, and that's a tough look.
Incredible.
But again, I don't care. Like even if it was, I don't care. I just don't. We
No,
won.
it was fun. And yeah, you have a Cardinals fan right there that said a few minutes ago, like, you guys are a wagon. Yeah, the Cubs are a wagon. The Cardinals are a laughing stock right now. I don't know if I would go that far yet, but those games really said something. Like, I just got another text from a Cardinals fan, and he was like, "We looked bad." Yeah, they did, but the Cubs are good. It's like last year, maybe year before, when you lose to somebody like the Dodgers, it's like, okay, well, they're a really good team. It's going to happen. That's kind of what the Cubs are now. The Cubs are one of those teams that it's like, okay, we lost to them. Like, they're a really good team. It shouldn't be surprising. So, really cool that we're at that point. Like, that's awesome. Matt Shaw Enjoyer says we deserved another birdie close tonight. Yes, we did. And that's why I posted and I said, like, why is Palencia in this game? Because I would have loved to see birdie close again. That would have been fun. Yeah, and then King Nate says they can't say nothing. Got to play the game. They got up. They did. I mean, they got destroyed, but this is still a team that has whether they've overperformed or whether they are that good, they are above 500. The Cardinals have been a good team, whether they will be in the future or not. They have been a good team, and the Cubs beat them. And that's not only important for right now, but that's important for later in the season when we go on the standings. Jack just asked a trade question and then also mentioned draft stuff. We'll get to that a little later on, so I'm not ignoring you.
Jay-Z
But
Scoops. Jay-Z Scoops.
I got some stuff I want to discuss. But we'll get to
Discuss
that
watch. Hashtag discuss watch.
Hashtag discuss watch. I love that. Hashtag I'm blinking a lot because I'm tired and I just noticed I'm blinking a lot. So I'm sorry. Sorry guys. But no, it's so exciting. I've said this before on the show and I'll say it again. The Cubs haven't always been I am going to, no matter what, make sure I am free for this team. Now it is, this team is fun. This team is really fun. I was talking to, as most of you know, I'm interning with a baseball team out in Cape Cod. I was talking to a Red Sox fan today, and I was showing him the Cubs game, and I'm like, the Cubs are back. Like, like I was super excited. And every time, like the other day when we had all those home runs, I kept calling them. I'm like, yeah, now he's getting a home run. He did. I started screaming. But these Red Sox fans said, if the Red Sox don't make the playoffs, I'm rooting for the Cubs. All of these people are rooting for the Cubs because the Cubs are such a fun team. The Cubs are getting flexed onto national TV because they are a fun team that everyone loves. Pete Crow Armstrong and Seiya Suzuki are the Splash Bros of the MLB right now. Just thought of that like 5 seconds ago, and I love it. Like, they are a pair that you love to watch. They're super fun, and they're best friends too. Like, that is fun. The Cubs are fun, and winning by 11 runs is a ton of fun. Was there anybody certain that stood out to you in this series? I'm assuming you'll take the obvious answer, but I'm curious who you go with.
Yeah, I mean, we got to talk about that man, Michael Bush.
Yeah.
We got to talk about that man, Michael Bush. Jed got fleeced in the trade and ended up with a top 6 OPS player in
It's true.
baseball currently.
Yeah.
Michael Bush this weekend went 9 for 12 with 6 RBIs and 4 home runs. When I was doing my show notes, I had to scribble out the 8 and put the 9 because he was up to bat and then just laced one off the wall. And then I had to update my OPS rankings and find the most up-to-date OPS rankings. He is 5th in MLB in OPS with a 950. He's on fire.
Insane.
and he did some of it against lefties. On the 4th of July, he had 3 home runs. I think it's the first time at Wrigley Field since Dioneer Navarro in like 2012. So it's
It's
been
been a
a
while.
while. It's been a while since the Cubs gone 3 home runs at Wrigley Field. He's been great. And they were talking about on the ESPN broadcast, not my favorite channel to watch baseball on, as most baseball fans know. But they did make the comment Michael Busch is a huge X factor for the lineup. And I agree because now that Swanson, I guess, gets bumped down in the lineup, maybe just for tonight because it was Eric Fetty, who is right handed. You have hopes and prayers. But when Michael Busch is 5th in the MLB in OPS, he is lengthening the lineup like no other. Like I was comparing Michael Busch numbers this season to like Anthony Rizzo 2016 and just kind of seeing
Yeah.
like where they kind of stand up. And Anthony Rizzo forgot that he was an absolute dog in some of those years because his OPS was also around 930. But that's kind of the level of offense that we're getting. So like if you compare that, and maybe a little less slugs, I think in 2016 Rizzo had 32 home runs and Busch only has 17. Like he could end up with 20 by the All-Star break with the way that he's been hitting. Michael Busch has been incredible. He was incredible this weekend, and he's one of those guys. Again, if you're looking at this Cubs lineup, 2 is Kyle Tucker, 3 is Seiya Suzuki, 4 is PCA. That's a good 2-3-4. If you have Michael Busch at 5, it's like this lineup becomes very daunting for a lot of pitchers. We got to improve against lefties, but that's a discussion for a different day.
Yeah, no, there's so many of these guys. And I want to shout out Jay Hay, the Nugget Chef with Baseball is Dead, one of my favorite baseball accounts out there, one of the smarter baseball content creators there is. He said, you could make a credible argument that as many as 6 Cubs position players should either be a starter or reserve. PCA, who's a starter, Tucker, who's a starter, Suzuki, we'll get into that later, Kelly, Horner, and Busch. The last time the Cubs had that many people on the All-Star team was 2016. I saw the Cubs had the same record through like 87 games as 2016 team.
Noticing.
Noticing. And he also said should scrap the current All-Star game format and play Cubs versus everybody else, which may be my favorite tweet of all time. Because that's the thing is like it's such a fun team. I know I sound like a broken record, but Michael Busch makes it such a better lineup. Yeah, Birds fans said it great. He said Busch makes the Cubs lineup deeper. Having him as your 5 or 6 hitter is good. Yes, because he's the best first baseman in baseball right now. Why he didn't make the All-Star game, I don't know. And I get that the All-Star game doesn't matter, but still, it's dumb.
It's still an honor for the players. Like
Yes.
as fans, like it's kind of a mute point because like we can go back and forth and share baseball savant and the little comparison pictures people send, but don't get it twisted. I think if you ask most of those players, would you like to play in an All-Star game at some point in your career? A lot of them will say yes. And for a guy like Seiya Suzuki that I feel so bad for right now, and I'm hoping that I'm not hoping for anyone to get injured, but if there is a slot that opens up due to injury, it's going to be him or Juan Soto that gets probably that first call. And if it's not Seiya Suzuki, then I'll have more reason to complain on this show, which I'm happy to do in his honor.
Yes. Oh, we're always happy to complain. You know me. I'm always ready to complain if needed. But yeah, it doesn't make sense. And is there anything else we want to talk about Cubs wise before we go into an All-Star rant? Is there anything else Cardinals wise? I want to give a shout out to Matthew Boyd, who was dominant once again. And as Jack said, they said he doesn't have a good pickoff move. Best pickoff move in baseball, let's be honest. It was just such a fun series all around, and they didn't stop. Like they just stomped on their throats. Throwing John Birdie out there when the team is up by 10 runs is such a nasty move by Craig Counsell, but it is such a take that, we're the better team, deal with it, move that you do to your rivals. Like that is so fun.
Twice. I mean,
Teams
not that level of disrespect, but
almost.
two times this
Yeah.
weekend. It like that was BTA 2 times this
Yes,
weekend.
exactly. That was just absolute domination, 2 games. And you don't see that, especially with the winning team. You don't see a position player come in because he gave up 3 runs. What if it's more? What if someone hits a home run and makes it a 3-run ball game? Then you have to bring in a new reliever in a really weird situation. But Counsell trusted in John Birdie. He trusted in his new closer, John Birdie, and Birdie made a fantastic play to third base, which was really fun. It was just such an aesthetically pleasing series win. It was such a like
Especially
win
Friday.
differentials through the yeah.
Friday kicked it off. I mean, 4th of July, or a club team record 8 home runs in one ball game. I was listening on the radio feed. As I was getting ready to go to my 4th of July plans, and it was just Pat Hughes, like this quote over and over as I'm like trying to fold some laundry and like pack some bags, and it was just this one's long gone, this one's long gone, and then the next inning it was like this one's got a chance and it's gone, and I'm like, hearing Pat Hughes say that 8 times, Jacob, was just quite literally absolute cinema. Hearing the absolute fireworks show at 1:20 on a Friday at the Federal Landmark against the Cardinals. And again, I don't care that it was Miles Michaelis. 8 home runs in a ball game, club record. I think the previous record would have been like the playoff game where they had 6, also against the St. Louis Cardinals. Bomb squad. Just love to watch it. Just
Bombs.
like you said, aesthetically pleasing. That's what Friday was. Saturday, again, a game you should have won. But then again tonight,
It happens.
just hanging out, chilling, watching the Cubs win by 10 runs. I was eating a steak that I had left over, and I was just like, this is why we do it. This is why I love to do it. This is fun.
Yeah.
Baseball
No,
is fun.
it's fun. And I wasn't able to watch a ton of these games live. I was able to follow along on my phone, but just sitting there, and whether it's because I was covering my own game or working, whatever I was doing, the constant new runs were scored notifications every 5 seconds. I mean, I mentioned it on Friday. We had a game, the July 4th game. And so I'm sitting there watching, getting ready for our game, and the Cubs are on. So I had it on every 5 seconds. It was just like, I turn around to a friend and I'm like, hey, Kelly's going to hit a home run here. And he's like, Jacob, shut up. You keep saying that. Kelly, it's a home run. Hey, Bush is going to hit a home run here. No, he's not. Yes, he does. It was just constant, like, and I kept just being like, hey, see that? Hey, see that? Hey, see that? And my phone was just blowing up. Like, it was just a nonstop barrage. And that helps the confidence of the team, who did have a bad June, but then they're coming off that sweep of the Guardians and they're playing the division rivals. I mean, the team is feeling good. PCA said it's the best offense he's ever played as a part of, which, yeah, easily. And Wrigley is finally being a better hitter's ballpark again. The wind wasn't even that bad this series. It was like 15-ish, 15, 20, which is not that much at all. Like 15 to 20 mile an hour winds is nowhere near as bad. But being able to, like you said, just domination, stomp on the throat of the Cardinals, not only helps Cubs fans, but it demoralizes Cardinal fans. And that is something I will always support.
I am with you. Great series win. Love to see it. Twins and Yankees. Two more series before we get to the Atlanta break. So got to wrap it up. I want to see him get to 20 over going in the break, just because that's another aesthetically pleasing number. But if it's 15 or 20, it really in between. It's been a great first half. So
Jordan Wicks hit 96. Again, I wasn't watching all of the game live. He hit 96. Well, there you go. Hello, Jordan Wicks.
Welcome back.
Well, yeah, and that's another last thing that I wanted to point out before we do get on to the All-Star game stuff is, let me look at, so his fastball normally averages 94.1 miles an hour, and that's counting tonight. So, hello, Jordan Wicks. He went over 3 innings scoreless to eat those innings, which is an underrated part of today's game, because especially as a starting pitcher, sure, it's I'll help wherever I can. But you're not used to just coming out of the bullpen. You're used to having your whole routine, and he looked fantastic in Iowa. This is a huge positive. If Jordan Wicks can be Jordan Wicks, like, that would be awesome and so helpful for a team that needs starting pitching. We'll get to that a little later, but that is such a huge benefit, is that he came in. They didn't let him finish the game. They put in Palencia just to get him a bit more reps. Again, where is John Birdie? But I mean, as Jack says, who says we need a closer? We got John Birdie. We do have John Birdie. And also, if you put PCA out there to pitch, I have a feeling he could throw hard. So why not just rotate position players pitching and see how it works? Throw the opposing offense off. But no, it was fun. And there were so many positives. Matthew Boyd to Jordan Wicks to Daniel Palencia today. That's fun. Those three are three of the best pitchers. Okay, Jordan Wicks, probably a stretch to call him the best pitcher on the team, one of the best pitchers on the team right now, but he has that potential. So yeah, Brujan's pitched before, as Jack says in the comments. So there you go. Look at that. We got a squad. Sign Anthony Rizzo. He doesn't have a team right now. You might as well. Uh, but yeah, it's just the pitching has been really impressive, and it's something that we needed. And then when you're scoring 11 runs a night, you're going to win 9 times out of 10.
We're starting to see too what happens when we throw our competitive pitchers out there because,
Mm-hmm.
like you said, I was at Busch Stadium. First night we pitched Ben Brown, that was an absolute rocking. Second night we pitched Jameson Tyone, that was an absolute rocking. And then they split the
Yeah.
series because they went Boy Niemanaga. And then similar to this weekend, well, with the Guardian series, Boy Niemanaga pitched, they win them both. And then Cade Horton pitched, they win that game. Colin Ray pitched on Friday. Hey, Colin Ray, we've talked about all year, gives you chances to win. For the most part, he's giving you competitive appearances. They won the
Yeah.
game. We had a bullpen on Saturday. Hey, we had a chance to win. I'm not gonna sugarcoat that one. We should have won that game. But having a bullpen game compared to having a starter is very different. The dynamic is definitely different. And then today, again, we lean on Matthew Boyd when you need a series win, and he got it. So awesome series this weekend.
Big.
Let's get a little bit to the All-Star game because we're kind of peppering around some of the All-Stars already that we want to get to. We've talked about Matthew Boyd a ton. Let's talk about the All-Stars that we do have first. Because starting in the game, we do have PCA and we do have Kyle Tucker starting in the All-Star game. Credit to both of them. They both deserved it. I was so scared Kyle Tucker was going to get snubbed out of a starting role because the Teoscar Hernandez votes were up there, and some of the other votes were up there, and Acuna's starting, and he's only played 36 games, although he's accumulated 2 WAR in those 36 games, which is impressive as all get out. But they deserve it. They've had incredible first halves. They are both in contention for the NL MVP behind Shohei Ohtani, but still in very big contention. They've anchored our lineups, and they deserve it. So hats off to those two, repping the Cubs in the All-Star game starting lineup.
Yeah, no, it's fun. And you knew PCA would be a starter. Tucker, I was a little iffy on, especially with like the fact James Wood isn't in the All-Star game is insane. Kyle Tucker should be in the All-Star game, don't get me wrong, but it's like, why is James Wood not in there? And then he went 5 for 5 the day of his home run derby announcement, which will also be really fun. Who else could be in the home run derby? Seiya Suzuki, please. That would be really fun. But yeah, there's so many Cubs that deserve it. And PCA and Tucker are both in the MVP race, which is crazy that the Cubs have 2 guys in the MVP race. And then Matthew Boyd's creeping up on, well, it's not Cy Young level. It's pretty close. And there's like Skeens and Wheeler will fight for the Cy Young all year. But Matthew Boyd has been what we needed for this team. Jameson Tyone said at the beginning of the season, and I've said this quote like 28,000 times by now. He said, if he stays healthy, he's an X factor for this team. He's stayed healthy. He's thrown more innings than he has since 2019, and he has like a 2.7 ERA. It's just spectacular. It's incredible. And yeah, he showed it again tonight.
Yeah, he's down to 2. According to the Real app, when I was doing my show notes, Matthew Boyd so far this season, these are his live stats per the Real app: 2.52 ERA, a 232 batting average against, and a 638 OPS against. That, sir, is pretty good. And factoring all that in, he's thrown 103.2 pitches, which we talked about before the season. I remember I'll have to find the clip. There's some other clips that I'll bring up as well because I owe Jed Hoyer an apology. I said, if that was your only standalone move as starting pitcher, that's a fail of a job. And he's proved me wrong. And I'm okay with being proven wrong. I will repost the clip and people can clown on me. But I will tell you this much. We said if Boyd could replace the innings Kyle Hendricks had, then that would be like a substantial win. And knock on wood, we are on track for that. And also, knock on wood, throw the innings out the window. If we had this is night and day here. Like you said, throw out Wheeler and Skeens, he's like in the Cy Young contention. And we know what Wheeler and Skeens can do. We know how phenomenal they are. But Skeens isn't going to be in the playoffs this year. You know, Zach Wheeler, we assuming at this point would be in the playoffs this year. So I'm like already thinking in my head. I've talked about it a ton. Boyd can go head to head with a guy like Zach Wheeler and give you again a really competitive chance. He is that guy. Now the name doesn't hold the value because he doesn't have the track record, but we saw what he did last year in October. He was very good in October last year. We're hoping to see that again. We're hoping to add the deadline, which I know we'll get to. But he has also been just so deserving of an all-star appearance, as well as the other two. But let's get to the guys who got snubbed. We've already talked about Michael Busch so I don't want to hone too much on that. I want to talk about Seiya Suzuki because
What are we doing?
I love this guy. Ever since we signed him from Japan, I have loved this guy. I've always said if we can just get one healthy season, I made the bet for him to win MVP last year. And whoever can say what they want, that's how much I believe in the bat. That's how much I believe in the player. That's how much I've just been begging in just wanting a full healthy season of Seiya Suzuki. And we are now getting it. And he has career highs in home runs, RBIs, and we're not even done with the first half of the season. He's 14th in OPS. He's first in RBIs. He's 6th in home runs in Major League Baseball, Jacob
That's
Zanola.
crazy.
Can you name the other 5 that are ahead of Seiya Suzuki right now in home runs?
I gotta lock in. Okay. Cal Raleigh, obviously.
Riley's number 1.
Big Dumper.
Big Dumper leads the way.
MVP in the AL. Aaron Judge.
Aaron Judge is number 2.
Shohei Ohtani.
Shohei Ohtani is number 3. You got 1, 2, 3.
Kyle Schwarber?
Kyle Schwarber is number 5. So you're missing number 4.
Okay. Honestly, and I'm not, I promise you, I'm not looking at the list, but I'm really surprised I'm doing this well. So number 4, how many home runs does he have?
I was just looking at the list. I want to say he has 27. I want to say he has 27. If you need another hand, I can give you one, but it's if I
give me the division.
NL West.
And it's not, is it? And it's not Marte, so wouldn't be on the Diamondbacks. Giants don't have anybody of that power. Would it be Devers?
And Eugenio Suarez is number 4.
Yes, Cubs target.
You threw yourself off your own scent, but
I did.
But you being wrong for that 4th because you said Rafael Devers. Here's some names that Seiya Suzuki has more home runs than. More home runs than Pete Alonso. More home runs than Rafi Devers. More home runs than Kyle Tucker. More home runs than Juan Soto. So you start naming these names. You say he was ahead of him, and you're like, yep, these all kind of make sense with kind of Suarez being the outlier. And then you look at these other names that he has more home runs than, and you're like, this is a great season. I'm trying to think of what stat they showed, but it was like the first Cub for 25 home runs and 70 RBIs since Sammy Sosa.
Yeah,
so,
it was something like that, and that's so
elite
crazy.
Elite power.
But he's not an all-star. So does any of it matter?
Kyle Stowers, respect, but sheesh.
It's bad. I mean, and again, I get that the All-Star game doesn't really matter, but it's a crime that he's not in there. And like Jay Hay said, there are so many Cubs that deserve to be in the All-Star game, but Seiya's like number 3 under, and he would have been if Devers hadn't been traded to the Giants. So I'm going to blame this on, because he would have been right there under Shohei for DH votes. So I'm going to blame this on Craig Breslow of the Boston Red Sox for keeping Seiya Suzuki out of the All-Star game. Thanks a lot, Craig. Yeah, it's frustrating, and he'll get in after injuries, and people say they don't want to play in it. But it's the fact that he isn't in originally that frustrates me. And there are plenty of guys that should have been in. Braxton, he says, would Bush playing against the lefties have helped or hurt his All-Star game chances? Michael Bush is not good against lefties. Yes, he had a few home runs recently, and he even said he feels comfortable against them. What else is he going to say? He's not going to be like, yeah, dude, I can't see a thing lefties will throw at me. But the stats show he is not a good hitter against lefties. So, well, I understand Craig platooning him. I wish that he would just throw him in there against lefties. Even bat him a little lower is fine. Give him those at-bats because he is a good enough hitter. He will learn. It probably would have hurt his chances. But at the same time, maybe it wouldn't have, because they're like, we don't want to platoon bat in the All-Star game. So I'm going to say it hurt his chances, or it would have hurt his chances to play against lefties, but his chances are clearly not high enough because he didn't make it. Yeah, it's frustrating. Yeah. And Nate says Rodriguez made the All-Star game with a lower OPS than Christopher Morel. Yeah, Rodriguez has like a 700 something OPS, and he made the All-Star game, which is crazy. This is a stat that I want to focus on.
Big Papa.
The Cubs have not had a player with 30 home runs or more since Kyle Schwarber, who I just mentioned when guessing total home runs. Seiya Suzuki already has 25. Pete Armstrong has 23, 22,
23.
23. So first off, it's crazy that we're like, Seiya's such a power hitter. And then
Hmm.
PCA's right on his rear. Like he's about to rear end him there. So it's crazy the Cubs. And then we have Tucker. And the Cubs
Tucker
have just
17, Bush 17, Swanson, I think 14, maybe
14,
15.
15. Yeah. Horner, 3.
Carson Kelly,
What?
11. Carson Kelly
Yeah.
had 2 home runs again this weekend. He's
Yeah.
back. He never
And
left.
he left.
He
He
did.
he
Yeah, he
left.
did leave.
Don't make me bring up those June stats. Yeah, no, he left. But he's back. Don't, dude, don't. It's bad. But this is something that we have seen throughout the years is the Cubs have gone and became a more of a contact team, more of a let's slap the ball around. And well, that is good. You need to hit home runs and score all those runs in one hit. They're doing that, and this is the best Cubs team I've seen since 2016. This team
Well,
has the power and the speed to win, to be the best in the National League. I botched the song. That's on me. Yeah, Reese McGuire with 5 as well. So everyone's hitting home runs. The catching now trio has been so good, which is crazy
mhm.
because that was our downfall last year. But yeah, I mean they're hitting for power, and that's important.
It's super important. It's something that we haven't seen in recent years. I mean, we covered it all off season of just 30 bombs guy. Where's it going to come from? If the Cubs don't get that, this season would end up being disastrous. At least that's my thought. And once we got Kyle Tucker, like, all right, we got the guy. Awesome. And now it's like Kyle Tucker isn't really even close to 30 home runs because Seiya Suzuki and PCA are so above and beyond. And Tucker has 17. I'm not saying he's having a bad season by any means, so don't get it twisted. But in years past, and specifically 2013 and 2024, 2025, I'm getting my years mixed up now. I'm getting old.
Yeah, it
The Cubs
happens.
offense can only beat you in a couple ways, especially last year. I remember there was a stretch in late May where it was like Cubs haven't hit a home run in a week. Like the
Yeah,
Cubs offense was very one dimensional. A lot of teams knew that. Guy comes up in the ninth inning, like Ian Happ comes up in the ninth. Like not too many people are scared of Ian Happ hitting a home run. And it's no disrespect to him. That's just not really what his game's built on. And everyone knows I love Ian Happ. But now it's like they can beat you with power. They can beat you with speed. They can beat you with contact. They can beat you if they turn over their bullpen in the 6th inning or later because they've been that good, except for the Brad Keller blow up. But other than that, like that's why I even tweeted. I was like, I'm not even mad about this because this hasn't happened. Like this doesn't happen a lot for this Chicago Cubs
right.
team. And that just shows the versatility. It's a lot of credit to Jed Hoyer. I love Jed Hoyer. I will never stop defending Jed Hoyer. I want that extension done right after the Kyle Tucker extension gets done. I want him around for a long time because put in perspective this weekend too. Obviously, I do a little trolling myself on the X.com
Really,
on X.com the
really.
everything
That's
app.
that's the first I'm hearing of this. Really.
On X.com the everything app, I do a little fine trolling myself. And one Cardinal account who I just was interacting with made some comments about their front office and our front office. And I said, so do you think the Cubs are a better run team? And he was like, absolutely. Like it is 100x. The Cubs are a better ran organization. And it just puts in perspective how good I think we do have it at the end of the day. Obviously, I want to see as much success as anyone else with this team. Obviously, I want to see them win. Obviously, I know they haven't won a playoff series since 2017. Obviously, I know it's playoffs or bust this year. I know they need to win. I know it needs to happen soon. But you look at teams of your own division, and it's like we're in better shoes than the Cardinals. Like the Cardinals really haven't been relevant since they made the World Series in 2013. So and if the Cubs went to the NLCS this year, I was doing some math the other day. We know I'm not a math guy, but sometimes I can pull something out of my sleeve. If the Cubs make the NLCS this year, they would have been in the NLCS 40% of the time in the last 10 seasons.
That's insane.
And I know a lot of that's come from 2015, 16, 17 when they went 3 years in a row, but it's baseball, man. It's baseball. There's variance. Teams get hot, teams run into trouble, teams get injured, teams get hurt. But if you're looking at this, you got to space out sometimes. And it's like if you're in the NLCS 40% of the time in the last decade, that's a pretty well run organization. Haters are mad that I have to say that, but it's true.
That's crazy. I hadn't even thought of that. Like,
It won't be true next year, but it is for now if they
it
make it.
is it is for now. What a team. What a time to be alive. Man, what's the last time? And I wonder what the last time you could say that is. Well, because they hadn't made the World Series since 1945. So, goodness, what a time to be alive. I mean, Cubs are good. The Cubs are
Yeah.
really good, and they are catching a lot of eyes around the league, especially from potential people that are wanting to acquire prospects from them. That was an A+ transition. Credit to me on that. So we're going to move on to the trade deadline. We have a few questions trade deadline on here. So somebody said, I do not want Seiya Suzuki in the home run derby. Yes, that would be really fun. That would be awesome. And then Jack, you said Gage Wood is a Cub. He's an interesting one. I'll go draft really quick and say Gage Wood is someone that I would love as well. Him, I saw Bremner, and then Wahiwa Aloy, who is a YD Red Sox alum. YD, nope, other side. Here we go.
Represent.
Yeah, represent. He played with us last year, and he won the Golden Spikes. So he's another exciting name. And I kind of leaning Aloy at the moment because he crushed it in college. They made it far in the College World Series, and he killed it in the Cape. And you know that the Cubs love them some Cape boys. Every year, they're looking and drafting some middle infielder from the Cape Cod League. Matt Shaw, Cam Smith, and now
Brett
Wahiwa
Bateman,
Aloy, possibly
Cape
Brett
guy,
Bateman.
Cape guy, good
Brett
guy, nice
Bateman.
guy.
Yeah. And he's someone that excelled in the Cape and got himself on draft boards. And we have a few of those guys on our team that are doing amazing in the Cape and are draft eligible in a week, which is sad because that means we're going to lose them. But Gage Wood would be really fun. That would be a really fun option. Starting pitching is going to be, I'm trying to making sure that I don't have any other comments that I missed here. Luke says hi. Hello, Luke. Yeah, no, starting pitching is going to be the main thing here. Jack says Owen Casey. Owen Casey's probably gone this deadline.
He's gonna love Miami. He's gonna love Miami. He's gonna love Minnesota.
Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to get a read on where they'll send him, but it does seem, and as we've said before, he was discussed in those Jesus Luzardo negotiations back in December with the Marlins. So that means the Marlins know the Cubs system, the Cubs know the Marlins system. He had surgery this winter. So whether that complicated things or not, I believe he had surgery. Yeah, he had surgery this winter, and he looks healthy as ever. He's hitting 85 home runs a night. He had another multi-hit night tonight. So he's the top trade piece in this team right now. And I wrote a piece about who we could trade, and that was before they got like red hot, because Sam and Kevin Alcantara have both been really good, but this was before they got like really, really, really good. Sandy Alcantara is okay. Uncle Ted coming in with a comment again. Keep these comments coming. We love it. We got some good questions. Uncle Ted says Cubs wants a World Series. Go get Joe Ryan and Griffin Jax and Ryan McMahon. Joe Ryan, yes. Ted, you're a genius. Griffin Jax, yes, you're a genius. Uncle Ted is on a roll. Mitch Keller, genius. So Uncle Ted, you're the best. Ryan McMahon, someone that I'm not totally sure on because his offense has always been very boom or bust. If they like him, I mean, they've shown interest in him. So if they like him, and then he said, "Do not trade any lefty bats." I'm out on Ted. Sorry, Ted. Yeah, Owen Casey is someone that I want to trade. Not because he's a bad player. He is very good, but he has too much value to hold on to. Sandy Alcantara. Oh yeah, Jack says Edward Cabrera. Edward Cabrera is one of my top names so far. Or not Ranger Suarez, Eugenio Suarez, who you just mentioned as somebody who is atop the league leaderboard in home runs, and he kills the Cubs. He does very well at Wrigley Field. Why not make that his home ballpark? It's the question of Matt Shaw, and I guess I'll pause before I continue about starting pitching. What do you feel about acquiring a third baseman and benching or platooning Matt Shaw?
I will say this because when I was watching the Cubs Cars game, I was thinking of what we could really talk about tonight, like more in depth. And I did want to touch a little bit on Matt Shaw. So this is actually another perfect transition. Credit to you. Matt Shaw has obviously not been what we thought he could be offensively to start. And we know young guys struggle, and that stuff happens. And I have zero concern that Matt Shaw will be good or not be good in the future with the offensive side. His defense has been electric. There's zero complaints on defense. So it's like, how much are you willing to give up to get more on offense? And I know the rich sometimes got to get richer. That's how you beat a team like the Los Angeles Dodgers. But some things I did find interesting. His whiff rate's in the 65 percentile. It's a 21.6%. So he's better than half the league in whiff. And I know as a rookie, like there's some little wins that I think you can take from here and say
Yeah.
he hasn't been atrocious, so he hasn't been whiffing on everything. And I know sometimes when you watch the game, you might think that. His K rate's 62%. It's 19.3. That will have to come down over time. But again, he's over half the league in whiff. It's not like he's clocking a 30% whiff rate with a guy like a dude like Nolan Gorman, a guy
Yes.
who so like. And then lastly, I have his walk rate, 59th percentile, a 9.2 walk rate, which, again, better than half the league in taking walks, better than half the league in whiff percentage, better than half the league in K rate. So there's some things you can take away from Matt Shaw's offensive game that, kind of softens the blow. But I guess to your original question, I would still I would take a guy as a rental like Suarez, and you can play Matt Shaw as a role of, like I've always said, like 2016 Javi Baez, where like Ben Zobrist and Addison Russell were playing up the middle a ton, and Ben Zobrist was obviously playing everywhere, and Javi Baez played a lot more down the stretch and in the playoffs, but they weren't relying on him. And I don't think that Matt Shaw is a guy that people are relying on right now anyway, but I would be lying to you as well. Hand up. When he comes up, I'm expecting an out. I'm really not expecting him to do much offensively. I mean, that's just kind of what it is. But again, it softens the blow when his defense is as good as it's been. So I'm not putting Suarez super high on my like things I must have at this deadline. It is still undoubtedly one starting pitcher, and with Jameson Tyone going down, I wouldn't mind having two at this point.
Yeah. So Uncle Ted is keeping the questions coming. He said, "What is Shaw's pulled air rate?" His pulled air rate is 13% right now. And then what is his barrel rate? His barrel rate is 3.9% in the 12th percentile. So there's a lot to improve from. And that's why I'm okay, especially if it's like a 1-year guy like a Eugenio Suarez, because I don't want to give up on Shaw long term. He will be fine. As we've talked about many times with Brett Bateman, like this dude will figure it out. Everybody that I've talked to has said this guy is a dude. Like he is a good player with a hard work ethic. He will figure it out. And Jack with the best comment of the night: no Hayes. No. Why are the Cubs interested in Ke'Bryan Hayes? I
Agreed.
don't, and maybe they aren't. Like, to be fair, around this time, maybe they aren't. I haven't heard anything specific about him. It just doesn't make sense. But I would say, what about... See, in Sandy Alcantara, I'm starting to lose hope on. Not only because he's been bad, but it sounds like their asking price is still going to be high, which makes sense. If you're the Marlins, it makes sense because he's not super expensive money-wise, but you're not going to get rid of him for nothing. So I saw a mock trade earlier that was Owen Casey and Jackson Wiggins, and everyone's like, no, there's no way they do that. The Cubs won't do that. And at the same time, that seems like a reasonable asking price if you're Peter Bendix of the Marlins. Like that seems like, yeah, that's probably what they're asking for. I am under the understanding that the Marlins are asking for a lot for Sandy, so much that do the Cubs budge there? I don't know if they will. I don't know if I'd want them to, and especially because you're also paying money for him. Like he has like 7.5 would be how much the Cubs are paying for him, depending on when they trade for him, maybe a little more. But they have limited money at this deadline. So you have to factor that in. It's not like, hey, whoever we trade for, it doesn't matter how much they're getting paid. They have a lot of money already on the books, and we know whether it's frustrating or not, they aren't going to add that much more. So Sandy would be probably 40 to 60% of the money, depending on where they're willing to go. I've heard different numbers of how much Tom Ricketts has allowed Jed to spend this deadline. But either way, that's going to be a big portion of it. So, I wouldn't rule out Sandy, as Jack says. No, Sandy. I wouldn't rule out Sandy, but I would pump the brakes on that personally. Edward Cabrera is someone that I would love on the Cubs. The Cubs have shown interest in him before, as has been reported, and they like him. I like him. I think we all like him. Like Edward Cabrera would be a really fun target. Joe Ryan, I don't know if he's available. Again, would make
Yeah,
sense for the Cubs, but that would be pricey.
he's the most slam dunk option I think for the Cubs.
Yes.
But like you said, it doesn't matter if the Twins don't pick up the phone. And as much as I'd hate to say it, the AL wild card is still an absolute wild card, and they could get hot just as well as any other team could. What's your thoughts on a Zach Gallen trade? Because that's some guy who should be cheap to get at this point of what's happened with them. Pure rental, 5+ ERA, not having a good season, obviously. And if you could bunch him and Suarez in a deal for a couple, like a Johnny Long plus Ben Cowles trade, like even then, like is that too much?
Yeah.
Like that feels kind of right. Like I don't know. Like I think Johnny Long has a ton of value for the Cubs at this point, and he's a guy that I think is another sneaky option. I mentioned it on the radio on WRMN 1410 AM from 10 to 12.
Free ad.
Plug there.
No free ads. No free ads. No free ads. I'm sorry.
Never mind.
Cut that.
Never mind. I don't go on there. No, I'm kidding. But
brainwash.
Yeah. But I've mentioned that on those stations and those airwaves. Johnny Long's a guy that the Cubs could sneakily trade at their peak. I'm blanking on the name now. Help me on the guy who does all the Cubs prospect stuff. Not Zumac. Greg
Zumac.
No. The other guy. Who's the other guy?
Greg Huss.
Greg Huss. He had a really awesome thread. If I find it, I will post it somewhere. But he talked about one thing that Jed has kind of struggled with is selling prospects at their peak.
Yes.
A guy like a la Zaire Hope, a guy who a lot of people put high on their rankings. And again,
don't mention that name.
Yeah,
don't mention that. That's like Voldemort. You can't mention that name around here.
He's going to come out of the bushes. But he's going to hear the name. He's going to come from
somewhere. He's here.
But either way, we'll call a spade a spade. If you trade Zaire Hope this deadline, you're going to get more from than a guy like Michael Busch. And again, at 950 OPS isn't bad, so I'm not even going to go there. But Johnny Long's peak right now as a prospect, I don't think it's going to get much higher. Similar to a guy like Mo Baller, like I don't really want to bring it up, but if we're looking at this Cubs roster and how they're constructed, where is Mo Baller going to get at bats? And especially if you sign Kyle Tucker back, where's Mo Baller getting at bats? So that's even a name too that I used to have on my do not trade list. And now I'm like, if they can get you Joe Ryan, yeah, I'm throwing Mo Baller in there. But what's your thoughts on Zach Gallen? I kind of got off the point there, but I think it's cheap. I think you can get him and Suarez in a deal. And if a guy like Johnny Long's your one of one guy in that deal with a couple other guys, keep the change.
Yeah, no worries. Rambling is my specialty, so I'm used to it. Johnny Long is someone that I think is one of the most likely to get traded as well, along with Casey, because like you mentioned, he has hit his peak, or supposedly he had a rough June, but June or May, I believe it was June. But yeah, I don't know if I want Zach Gallen. It feels very similar to Sandy. He's about the same contract price, and he's been quite bad as well. Not as bad, but pretty bad. He's using his fastball 50% of the time, which is about normal, but you're seeing like his knuckle curve, he's not using as much. That's down by 3%. It's really confusing because he's been such a good pitcher before, but this year everything's down, especially his curveball looks awful. His curveball last year had a plus 15 run value. This year, -5. So what changed with the curveball? It's hard to tell. It's not getting as much. It's getting a little more movement, but it's getting a little less spin, but it's only by 2% spin. And with deviations the same, all these smart things on Baseball Savant that I act like I know what they mean, and half of them I don't, they're all kind of the same. But what I do know is Zach Gallen is getting hit hard. His barrel rate is the worst in the league. The worst in baseball. That is awful. So Would he be an interesting reclamation project? Yes. Yes, he would. But I don't know if I want to deal with that, especially when we just said no to a Sandy
A
Alcantara,
reclamation project, yeah.
albeit Sandy has more years under his contract. Merrill Kelly is someone that I would look at on the Diamondbacks, especially a package. Um, but yeah, no,
And the Mitch Keller smoke's still there too, which honestly I've kind of come around on Mitch Keller a little bit because I made the post of like, someone tell me what I'm missing here, because there's so much smoke here. I'm not excited about it, but someone tell me what I'm missing. And the only comment I needed was someone said he is a tread athletics guy, and then I was like, all right, cool, get him
I'm
on the
in.
team.
I'm in.
Friend of the program, Tyler Zombro. I'm sure he's itching to get his hands on another tread guy and get him in the
Well,
room. And he has a lot of contract. He has a lot of control as well, which we know Jed likes. The only problem I have with that is the Pirates aren't going to make it cheap. And if you give them a bat that we're going to have to play for the next however many years, you better make sure it's one that you don't believe in, because I don't want to watch Owen Casey dominate us for the next however many years.
right.
And then we bring in Mitch Keller and he sucks, which again, I'm not
Yeah.
hoping for. And maybe that's some of my Cubs PTSD kicking in, but I've come around on Mitch Keller, but it's the Pirates. So it's like, Joe Ryan,
Well,
please, Joe Ryan, please.
please, Joe Ryan. Mitch Keller is also from Cedar Rapids, so a little bit of a local-ish kid, and I believe Colin Ray's from the same area as well. Um, Maybe he can do some, I guess, not recruiting because it's not up to Mitch Keller, but yeah, he has an expected batting average of 270 against, so it's a little low there. He's not getting a ton of whiffs, but he's not walking a lot of guys. Like that's his best stat is a 5.8% walk rate. His expected ERA is right about what he's been doing. So he hasn't been amazing. He's not a one by any means. I don't think anybody's saying he's a one. He has a 3.64 ERA. So 30 points better than his expected ERA. Getting a little lucky, but not really. Gets a lot of ground balls, which you always love with this Cubs defense. And his pitching, fastball, and breaking run value are all 88 percentile or more. And he has a big pitch mix too. He has 6 pitches, a 4-seam, sweeper, slider, sinker, curve, and change. Although the curve and change are only used 8 and 7% respectively. He's a fun name, and I wonder, do you trade and package him with a David Bednar? That would be fun. David Bednar just won reliever of the month. So the Pirates should have traded him in the past when he had his peak, and now he's at his peak. Yeah, I mean, please, Joe Ryan, need Joe badly. That's real. That's real. And then say as King says, Cubs pitching lab will fix them. And that's where he's not wrong. You look at that Trout Athletics connection. I trust Tyler Zombro with my life. You've seen what he's done with all these guys. Like him and Tommy Hotovy is one of the most dangerous duos in sports, right behind Seiya Suzuki and Pete Armstrong. So, and then me and
Paging Joe Obvious. We need a shirt. We need a Hotovy Zombro shirt. You're smarter than me. Well, I know you'll figure it out. You're smart. You're a smart dude. Hotovy Zombro shirt. I'll buy them. I'll buy 10. I'll give 9 of them away.
That would be fun. No, because we got PCA and Suzuki, Hotovy and Zombro, me and the Dippin' Dots vendor. Dynamic duos. Like dynamic duos. You had Dippin' Dots, by the way.
I did.
Which we'll wrap that up with shortly. But yeah, no, I trust the Cubs. So that's where, as much as I say, I want this guy or I want this guy, it's the same thing with the draft. I trust Dan Kantrovitz with my life. He's done stellar drafts every single year. They knock it out of the park with their top round picks, especially at Cam Smith. They immediately shipped him off for Kyle Tucker, and he's been good. So both of them, I mean, Tucker and Smith, but they're professionals. And that's something that as I've grown older, I've realized, hey, maybe everybody that works in baseball isn't an idiot. Maybe I don't know more than everybody. Now, when it comes to mock trades, I do know more than everybody. You're going to have to deal with that. But jokes aside, like they know what they're doing. And so whoever they get, I'm going to trust that they have a plan, because some of it's like, oh, we could change his mechanics if we trade for him, or we could change his pitch mix. You know, we want him to throw his fastball more. We want him to throw his sinker more. Sandy Alcantara, I would love for him to throw his sinker more. His fastball stinks. and he's using his sinker a little bit more. I said that, and then the next few starts, he started to use his sinker more. So I may be the next pitching ninja, but I want him to use his sinker more. And there's those small things that, well, they may not always be put out to the public. Teams talk about those things internally. The Cubs may be like, hey, we want this guy because we know we can fix him with this, or we think we can fix him with this. So we only want to give up this in case it doesn't work out. But you've seen what they can do. They're smart. They're really smart, especially in the pitching lab. So whoever they get is going to be good. But man, I would love Joe Ryan. And then says Jacob is the next Zombro. I don't know about that. Tyler is a very smart guy, and I will never reach that level of baseball smarts. I can tell you that much. Jose Soriano is a name that Jack brought up. Do you have any thoughts on that? He's an Angels guy. So I was also thinking Tyler Anderson earlier, who's on my fantasy team. So that would be kind of fun. But Jose Soriano is an interesting name. He would be cheap. He throws hard. He throws his average fastball velocity of 97.1 is 89th percentile. And then he has a curve, four seam, slider, and a split. His expected ERA is 4. He has a 3.72. So again, about the same as Keller there. But his ground ball rate of 66.9% is the 99th percentile. Like, that's insane. That's incredible, especially with the strong Cubs infield defense. Do you have any thoughts on Jose Soriano, or are there any other under the radar guys that you're looking at that maybe are not discussed as much as a Joe Ryan, a Mitch Keller, a Sandy Alcantara, guys like that?
Not a ton, because again, we have a couple more weeks before we see who we think could actually be selling. Like, I'm watching the Texas Rangers right now, and I mean, if they have a bad couple weeks, you could see some of those names start popping up, which is another whole can of worms that we don't really have to get into tonight. I want to briefly touch on a reliever. I want to hear your thoughts on it. Is there any world where an Emmanuel Clase becomes available on the market? I know he's having a down year, but his expected ERA is a 3.21. His fastball velo, well, he doesn't qualify, is 98.3. His whiff rate's in the 92nd percentile. His barrel rate's in the 89th percentile. His ground ball rate isn't too shabby themselves. The Cubs are going to go after some kind of bullpen arm, because as good as they've been, again, these guys are like kickers in the NFL. You have a bad couple weeks, and the wheels can fall off pretty fast. I think they'll go after someone, but do you see I'll put this more blanket statement. Do you see the Cubs going as highly priced on a bullpen arm, or do you think this is a classic Jed? I'm going to find a guy that no one's talking about, and he's going to end up being all right for us. Or do you think it's an area where they should go after I think it was Jack mentioned it earlier. We need a high leverage lefty. Even though Palm and Caleb have been very good, we don't have a high leverage lefty. Clase is not a lefty, but it still kind of factors into the point of, do we go after, like he said, 2016 vibes. We don't win a World Series without Chapman. I mean, do we need another high leverage guy?
Chapman will be available. I would be surprised if he isn't. I think they should get a bullpen arm. I don't think it will be a Chapman or a Clase, because that's going to cost them a lot of prospects, especially because Clase is cheap. Every once in a while, I look over at Clase's contract and I'm just amazed. He's getting paid $4.9 million this year, 6.4 next year, and then a club option for 27 and 28 that is $10 million per year AAV. So he's not getting paid that much.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, no, he's not getting paid that much. The price will be high, but we have the prospects, so it's interesting. It just feels so much more likely that he'll go after a bargain name bullpen-wise, which I get will be unpopular. But if I'm focusing on one part of this team, I'm going after the rotation. I'm going to get a starter or two. I'm not too worried about the bullpen. They've been great. I think they'll continue to be good. Pomerantz, 0 ERA, rest in peace. You will never be forgotten. The greatest Winsanity run of all time. We love you. Caleb Thielbar, another Winsanity run that continues. So is it really Winsanity, or is he good? Again, Tyler Zombro and Jed Hoyer Masterclass. Look at that. Wow. The Cubs can make good decisions. Like, remember the Michael Busch trade? That was a good decision. And people still fighting about that makes me laugh. That makes me smile, because people just have nothing else better to do. A few last things as we wrap it up. Jack says, close enough. Welcome back, Jose Quas. Go. No, please. No. It's like the Michael Scott office, like, no, I
Yeah,
can't. No, thank you.
we are
Chicago
good.
sports. Yeah, no, thank you. We're good on that. Send him to Guangdong. Chicago sports. Chicago sports fan says thoughts on Ahmed Rosario as a bench piece, positional versatility, and batting 299 versus left. Yeah, I would think they do look at. I can't imagine Justin Turner's on the team much longer, or those bench guys that are just there, like they're not really getting much use. I wonder if they do go with a guy like Rosario or somebody else that does really well. Against the lefties, and that'll also probably depend on what they do with Shaw. I think that you could do a move that gets you both, whether you move Shaw to the bench for the rest of this year, and
I
then
think
as
Amaya
they
is going to
reach
be
that,
coming back at some point, and
yes,
I think they're going to run that. I remember in 2016 and even 2017 they ran that three
three
catcher thing
catchers.
for a while, and
Yeah,
it makes a ton of sense with how good they've all been
yeah.
offensively. So I think Turner and Bruhan are your kind of first on the chopping block when Amaya comes back. It's going to be tough to see Bruhan sticking around. I think Birdie's safe. I think he's done enough to stick around on this team for the rest of the year.
Demon pitcher. Yeah, say as King says, get Jacob on the pitching staff, dude. If they want to, I'm sure that paycheck is not too shabby. I wouldn't mind it. Seth Lugo is a guy mentioned. I don't want Seth Lugo. Let me pull up his savant, and it is ugly. Seth Lugo's savant makes me puke.
No
And
deal.
it's,
No deal.
yeah,
No
right.
deal, Howie.
And he throws so many pitches. His savant has him with 9 different pitches, though a lot of them are
Are
like
good.
1 to 2%. But he has a 2.65 ERA. He's been good. His expected ERA is 4.45. So he's been getting extremely lucky. But on the other hand, it's like, yeah, but I don't care how lucky you are if you get the results. So I'm a
Yeah.
little in between there. I would rather Chris Bubich, who just made his first All-Star team, and guess what? He also played for the YD Red Sox. Uh, Lugo's interesting. Probably stay away from that, but if the Royals sell, I'm really in on Bubich like a lot.
Just keep
Seth
rooting
Lugo,
against the Twins. Keep rooting against the Twins. Root against the
yeah,
Rangers. My Chris Sale dream died so fast when he got injured. So
so quick. It's the Blake curse. It's the Blake curse.
yeah. So root against the Twins and the Rangers, and we will keep our fingers crossed because even though Jacob DeGrom's owed a lot of money, adding, I'm thinking of an October rotation of Shota, Matthew Boyd, and Jacob DeGrom, and that's enough to make you smile and start talking a little crazy. We can get to that 40% of the 40% of the last 10 NLCSs, and if you make it one more round further, we'd be in 1/5 of the last 10 World Series. So there's some
That would
math for you.
be
That's as much math as I'm going to do tonight for you guys.
that would be fun. I hadn't really considered DeGrom, but now I'm going to work on some mock trades once I get off this.
Yeah, why
Um,
not?
yeah, and then lastly, and then we are going to wrap up because it's 11:36 here, and I need to get some sleep. But I need the Rangers to eat that contract, says Jack. I don't think that would happen. I think we would have to take that money. But Keeper and Hayes, say as King, we discussed this earlier in the show. No bueno. No bueno. We're good. Yeah, no, we're good off that. Anyways, I think that is it. We hit 1,500 live viewers tonight. So thank you so much. That's incredible. We appreciate the support. We can't thank you all enough. Continue. I mean, tonight the comment section was amazing, especially with Jack and King Nate. Shout out to you guys. You guys were dropping a bunch of good questions. And the new podcast legend himself, Uncle Ted. Uncle Ted with some great ideas earlier, including some good starting pitching additions. But no, really, we appreciate all the support. Make sure to follow Cubs Insider on TikTok, Instagram,
TikTok. We're
Twitter,
almost at 2K.
YouTube.
We're almost at 2K on TikTok. I want to get
Blake,
that. I want to get that thing to 10K by the winter meetings, or maybe after the winter meetings. That's our goal. 10K by after the winter meetings, because it's
pretty
gonna
sick.
be winter meetings this year. Are gonna be pretty close to your home base coming up. So
It will be.
a lot of
Yes,
season left though.
it'll be very close. Jack asked if I had a scoop. I mean, the Sandy thing is kind of a scoop, but also, that's kind of out there. Like, they're asking for a lot, so I don't know. I think the Cubs are still interested, as many people have said. But I wouldn't get my hype, too hype about that. celebratory canes in order for the good weekend. Yes, thank you. Blake, did you ever get canes to reverse the curse?
I think I did. I I think I did. That's been a while now, so
It
I think
has.
we're good.
It has.
I'm trying to lay
Yeah,
out I'm trying to lay out the fast food. I've been sick this
smart.
week, so pausing on the fast food. But we'll be back.
Blake's
Everyone knows I love that stuff. So
Blake's dying, but the Cubs playoff hopes are not. Yeah, no, I can't shout out Blake enough for all the great work he does with all those edits, especially all the stuff tonight. He's going to edit, and you will see that on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter. All these questions that you guys asked, we are going to clip those and put them on the social media feed, so you'll get a shout out on there. Otherwise, I think that is all. Yeah, have a great week. Also, Kevin Durant, officially a Rocket. Thank you. I can't wait to discuss that with Brett on the next episode. But yeah, no, we appreciate it. Go Cubs. Cubs are hot. We have an off day tomorrow. So everybody take a night off. Watch. There's always a good game going on. And oh, I didn't ask, how was your 4th of July? You have a fun time?
it was good. Good 4th of July. Hung out with some friends. Some awesome fireworks. I'm a sucker for some from a good fireworks show.
Yeah.
So can't complain too much. And the Cubs whooped butt. So what
Dude,
about you?
that's the best part. No, good. Had a baseball game, and then I just stayed home, ate some ice cream, and watched some TV, which you can't beat.
Freedom.
A lot of
That's freedom,
yeah,
baby.
hey man, a lot of people out here on the Cape, like that's the thing is everybody comes for 4th of July. So from July 3rd until like next week, traffic is a living nightmare. But that meant a lot of fireworks all night. So I was up until 3 a.m. because I couldn't sleep. But pretty cool because fireworks are fun. But yeah, anyways, that was episode 160 of The Rant. Check out all of our stuff on CubsInsider.com as well. We have a ton of other awesome podcasts, including one that this guy, and I, there you go. I'm always the wrong side. That Blake and I do called The Cubby Climb with Cubs prospect Brett Bateman. Make sure to check that out. We have several episodes up. Another one will be coming out next week. Until then, thanks a lot, guys.
Peace.